Sound check. 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. Welcome everyone to this agenda briefing forum. This evening is not a decision-making forum. It is the briefing on the agenda for the Ordinary Council meeting, which will be held next Tuesday, the 23rd of July 2024. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the Council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 3, announcements. There are no announcements this evening. Item 4, attendance. Councillor Eveson, Councillor Bull and Councillor Clark have provided apologies for tonight. Councillor Maleka, Councillor Ostaszewski and Councillor Johnson are on approved leave of absence. All other councillors are present in the chamber this evening, so it's just a cosy meeting tonight, everyone. Item 5, disclosures of interest. Are there any councillors who have an interest to disclose? Councillor Sutherland.
I've got 3 and they're all impartial. The first one is 10.3.3, Frank Drago Soccer Precinct Redevelopment. Impartial because I know members of that club. The same for 10.3.2, Maylands Tennis Club conversion funding. I know some of the members. And the last one is 10.4.5. No, actually, I take that back. I don't need to worry about that one. So just those 2, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor?
Item 10.3.2, Maylands Tennis Club court conversion funding application. My kids have recently started playing at the club at one of the junior programs, so it's an impartial. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? I'll make a declaration on item 10.3.3, Frank Drago Soccer Precinct Redevelopment. As Mayor, I have had meetings with the committee members from the Bayswater Soccer Club, and I know the 2 people who are doing deputations on this item, so it's an impartial interest and I'll be staying in the room. Anyone else? No. Okay. So we will move on to item 6, which is deputations. And this evening we have 5 in-person deputations, and I'll explain how the process will work. Each person who is presenting a deputation will be invited to come forward to speak at the microphone for up to 5 minutes. As we get close to 5 minutes, I will let you know so that you can conclude your deputation. Once you have finished, the councillors may have some questions for you. So our first deputation is in relation to item 10.3.2. Judy Hogben has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation. Please come forward. And I'll just check that your microphone is on. Alex, do you mind just checking?
It is now.
Okay, here you go. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, and good evening, councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and talk to you on the redevelopment and the recommendations. At the April council meeting, it was resolved that the CEO, via the officers, to meet with Maylands Tennis Club to help progress the CSRFF application. I would like to acknowledge the work and the support of the officers, in particular Ross Cameron and Shivam Nirani, to enable the report back tonight in such a positive manner. So thank you very much, and please note that. Since the last meeting, we've had the absolutely wonderful news that our national court rebate scheme, our application for the hard court redevelopment, was successful. $90,000, which is absolutely amazing. We said at the last time I presented and in the report to council that this was in progress, but this is a wonderful outcome. Not only because the funding is such an important plank of our funding model, our finance model, it actually is an independent an external verification of the worth of our project and the data that we actually provided to support the project. And Tennis Australia and Tennis West clearly are both avid supporters. As the report to Council says, the lodged bank statements show that the club now has the funding, the financial capacity to contribute to the project, and of course the ongoing commitment and to drive the project forward. And this is a big change from last time when it was discussed, 2022. This project has always been based on one critical premise: the need for the redevelopment, as shown by all the data that we have presented previously. But beneath that, there are two important trends. One is that tennis and sports more broadly is changing, and the community members are wanting to pay as you go. And hard courts, coupled with Booker Court model and the system, is the means for that, to that end. This is the popular way of playing tennis, rather than through a fully paid membership model. And this is a state, a national, and as I was reading the other day, an international trend. It really is happening, it's changing, the paradigm is shifting. Secondly, this change to casual hardcourt pay-as-you-go community usage is particularly important for communities such as Maylands, where money is tight and sporting infrastructure such as hardcourts is vital. Maylands Tennis Club is not a large club. Some might call us small, but we are a genuinely big-hearted community club, and our commitment to and our belief in our hardcourt redevelopment with the subsequent benefit to juniors and families is deep-seated and is reflected in the fact that club members have put money into the bank to support this project. There can be no greater commitment and belief in a project than actually doing that. With the support of the Council and the important listing of $252,463 ex-GST to the project, we will be taking a massive step forward, and so will the Maylands redevelopment hardcourt project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before you take a seat, I'll just ask if councillors have any questions. Anyone? No? Thank you very much for your deputation. Our next one is in relation to item 10.3.3, Greg Durazio, the Frank Drago Soccer Precinct redevelopment, and Greg Durazio has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation. Oh, just one of you speaking? Okay, so we've got Brad Patch speaking in support of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. My name's Brad Patch. I'm from Patch Group Consulting, and I'm here with Stuart Dart from our firm. So we're engaged by council some months ago to look at an initial feasibility for the redevelopment of Frank Drago Reserve. So the way that the feasibility was set up was in two stages. So this is the end of the first stage. So the initial piece was to determine whether we felt that there was an opportunity to take the feasibility further. And the gateway there was tonight's presentation. So just going quickly through the process that we've been through to date, which as said is midway through. We've done a review of the existing strategies, importantly had a look at the existing facility itself, looked at the demographics of the area and in terms of football participation, some overall market analysis, competitor analysis, that looked at the trends and guidelines and other benchmark facilities, both in WA and around Australia. I've looked at a needs assessment and the management options for a potential new facility. Get that to go forward. In terms of the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, look, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I suppose what's clear is that there is an opportunity there at Bayswater to do something, and we think we could do something quite special. The venue is very uniquely located in between two train stations. And relatively close to the city. And, you know, the 15-minute drive is certainly a great opportunity from a Bayswater perspective. In terms of the weaknesses, Clearly, the facility is dilapidated, very much well beyond its useful life. The layout of the facilities in terms of the playing fields and the pavilion doesn't work overly well. The facilities within the overall sporting precinct have been developed very much standalone, so they don't really talk to each other. In terms of the opportunities, we think that an opportunity to include what we would refer to as complementary commercial opportunities, and they are opportunities which provide a commercial benefit, but importantly benefit the community as well. And we believe with the considered inclusion of one or more of those opportunities, the overall facility can be viable. We think there's a good opportunity to maximise the environmental green strategies, including the strategies that Council has out there. A good opportunity to increase provision of shared use facilities for juniors and especially for females. In terms of the threats, I suppose that the main threat on the site is it is a difficult site, primarily around topography. It does have quite a reasonable fall as you come across the site, and it does retain water very well. So the upgrades of the pitches will require likely a sand-based upgrade so that the water drains through a little bit more efficiently. I suppose the two key takeouts from the initial piece of work that we've done is there is demand for additional redeveloped soccer facilities in Bayswater. There's no doubt about that. The demand for soccer or football is strong. Assuming inclusion of one or more of the recommended complementary commercial activities, we believe the project can be operationally viable in its own right. We believe that the redevelopment can meet the needs of the Bayswater City Soccer Club as the anchor tenant. We also see that the redevelopment can promote greater overall use for the precinct for the community. And we also believe that if positioned right, that the redevelopment can be attractive to government for funding opportunities. In terms of, I suppose, the key recommendations, as I said, that this is the first stage in a more detailed feasibility study, and I suppose the outcome of this stage was to determine whether we believed it was worth going forward into the next stage. We certainly recommend that it is worth proceeding into the feasibility study. That feasibility study will look in more detail around what we would build, how much it's going to cost, look at overall concept designs, the operation and management of the facility, what it's going to cost to run year on year. It will also include another level of stakeholder and community consultation to inform that demand, and it include the development of a business plan, which will include the development of the commercial or complementary commercial opportunities for the site. That's the end of my deputation, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll just ask if councillors have any questions. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you for your deputation. I am curious to know what's the status of the club's conversations with the relevant political candidates in Labour, Liberal, to provide funding for this project. Have you had any conversations?
We certainly haven't at this stage. Greg could probably answer more broadly, but part of this piece of work was to look at whether the facility was viable and whether we felt that it could be something that could be sold to state government. When we get into the next stage and get the feasibility done, that's when we'd be looking to position an opportunity to talk to the state government and the federal government around a potential commitment to the facility. I think Jeremy's CEO, there has been some informal conversations, but I suppose the message that we've delivered at this stage is there is still some work to do to determine at the moment. I could give you let's call it an educated guess around how much we think the facility might cost, but until we do the next piece of work, we really don't know what that will look like, and that will very much inform the funding strategy that will come out of that.
So I understand that will not happen, obviously, before the state election.
Look, there's certainly still an opportunity to position for the state election, but I suppose the big challenge there is that the state government in particular is locking in a lot of those commitments now, and so timing is certainly challenging for us. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And I'll just ask one question. Yep. So just to be clear for council, a feasibility study is what's required to be able to seek the funding.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, I mean, the one, I suppose, guarantee I can provide, I say this to a lot of clients, in doing the feasibility, we can't guarantee your funding, What we can guarantee, if you don't do the feasibility and you're going in cap in hand and asking for funding out of the state or federal government without that work, that they won't even consider it. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next deputation is in relation to item 10.5.1.10, policy review street verges, and Eileen O'Rourke has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation.
Okay, so Eileen O'Rourke from Bayswater Tree Canopy Advocates. I strongly urge councillors to support the officer's recommendation and draw attention to two particular things that need support. The first is the clear and unambiguous statement that artificial lawn or grass is not permitted as a verge amendment. I think that this, we brought this up at the AGM in 2002, and although it was never listed as one of the amendments that was acceptable, it was never stated that it was not acceptable. So it led to some confusion. I think from my understanding from a few meetings, not only by residents, but also by some of the workers, the officers at the council. I'm assuming that I'm not going to have to outline in any great detail the problems with artificial grass on verges. I mean, the high cost of its production, the carbon footprint of its production, the lack of biodiversity and the heat that it emanates. So all of those things are important. I think we'd just like to add, because of the confusion, I mean, so banning it is obvious. It's an obvious good idea for the environment. Because of the confusion that we see has emanated, it has meant that there's a number of verges that have artificial turf that have not appeared to have been looked at or spoken to, and some people have 100% artificial turf, or mostly they do have, if it's there. So I think as a gesture of goodwill, the council could provide some support to people if that lawn has to be removed, and also perhaps a voucher for adequate other treatments, low maintenance lawn. So that might be something to consider. The second thing that we looked at is, the second part is that verge treatments, if the verge treatment is brick paving, that there must be trees planted to promote full shade for the brick paved area. Again, this is a fantastic option, again, you know, to mitigate the heat that is generated by brick paving. The only thing that we'd like to stress is that maybe it needs to be clear as to where that tree could be planted, because presumably we're assuming it is to be a verge tree, but perhaps it's not quite clear, because a tree planted in a front yard could provide shade. So just that it is a verge tree, and at the count, and it's also a bit unclear whether it's the residents' responsibility or the council's responsibility to plant that verge tree. So perhaps a little bit of clarity on that would be good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
BTCA supporting something is unique. Okay, thank you.
I'll just ask if councillors have any questions. Councillors? No? Thank you very much for your deputation. Our next deputation is in regard to the same item, and we have Wendy Garstone speaking in support.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing this deputation without notice tonight. The item that I want to speak in support of is 10.5.1.7, and that's the Walga Model Local Planning Policy for Tree Retention.
Sorry, I read that wrong. I got the information late and I read that wrong. Sorry, councillors. I said it was in relation to the previous item. It's not. It's in relation to item 10.5.1.7, which is the Walga Local Planning Policy for Tree Retention. Sorry about that.
Thank you. So I'm speaking in support, and so an aerial survey was undertaken in February this year to survey the tree canopy coverage across the city's suburbs. This type of survey was last done in 2021 by the council, and I commend the city for contracting the February survey, especially in light of the fact that the state government has not undertaken a survey of all council areas since 2020. Myself, and I'm sure many others, are keen to see the results. So this item from the Policy Development and Review Committee is a recommendation that a review by city officers of both the city's significant tree guidelines and register and the Walga Model local planning policy for tree protection will be considered at the same policy review meeting in September. While the purpose of both these documents is to protect valuable trees, I suggest that the potential effectiveness of each will vary dramatically. I assume and hope that the reviewing officers involved in reviewing both documents will be able to refer to the recently obtained tree canopy coverage data. At the annual general meeting of electors in March this year, there were many questions raised by the public in regard to tree canopy data, including the following. What is the current canopy coverage percentage? How is the city progressing with its middle and longer term tree canopy targets? Where is tree canopy being lost the most year by year? Will the city provide a detailed report on the tree loss of the 23-24 summer? Did the Urban Forest Strategy Annual Report for 2023 include information on how the city's significant tree policy is performing? And the city's Greening Our City website page states that it is working towards implementing the scenarios outlined in its Green Dreams approach. Has the success or otherwise of this approach been reported on in detail in the Urban Forest Annual Report? And if not, can the city provide details of how this project is progressing? The responses provided by the city at the AGM were firstly that the city would provide a report on the LiDAR data on the Greening Our City page on the city's website, and secondly that the 2023 Urban Forest Strategy Annual Report will be completed and made available to the public. And I quote from the minutes of the AGM, this report will include detailed, accurate information relating to the successes of the city's programs, including the significant tree policy and the Green Dreams approach. In the interests of transparency, I'd like to suggest that this commitment made at the AGM is acted upon as soon as possible. I suggest that this would be the fair thing so that residents are as fully informed as city officers in the next couple of months. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'll just ask if there are any questions from councillors. No? Thank you. Okay, so councillors, we've received 3 written deputations tonight relating to 10.1.1, response to City of Swan referral, Roe Estate structure plan and consent to advertise road dedication. Item 10.4.5, Wildcats exhibition game, Morley Sport and Recreation Centre, and 10.5.1.7, the Walga Model Local Planning Policy for Tree Retention. These have been provided to councillors and are available on the city's website, and I'll take them as read. So, councillors, we'll now ask questions on items that were the subject of deputations. Are there any questions in relation to 10.1.1, response to City of Swan referral? No? Are there any questions in relation to 10.3.2, Maylands Tennis Club court conversion funding application? Any questions? No? Just for the benefit of those in the gallery, in case you're interested, there's nothing further to discuss on that item, so please feel free to leave should you wish. Okay. A decision will be made next Tuesday night. Okay. Are there any questions in relation to 10.3.3, the Frank Drago Soccer Precinct redevelopment? No? Any on 10.4.5, Wildcats exhibition game, Morley Sport and Rec Centre? Or 10.5.1.7, the Walga Model Local Planning Policy for Trees? Yep, Councillor Ladder.
Just picking up on what one of the deputies mentioned. Do we have a date for when the LiDAR information will be released to the public, or a rough timeline for that?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, we're planning on bringing a report to council for the August meeting.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Just a follow-up. A question on this report that will come in August. Will also the report include all the more or less the information that we also recently in a briefing, the loss of tree, the tree mortality, all the problems, challenges?
Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. Yes, it will include all that information that was presented to
you.
councillors.
Any other questions on this item? No? Any questions on 10.5.1.10 policy review street verges? Deputy Mayor.
Yes. Yeah, just following up from what I think the issues that we had from one of the deputies, and I'm trying to help the city specifically with, I think, the clause that we had some questions on. So I'm just trying to find the policy. There you go. So there is one clause with regards to paving of verges, and I'm just trying to find it. And there was a question. There is a requirement to plant a tree. Yeah, and I think we were asked two questions. The first one, where will the tree be planted? And from what I understand, the question was whether it will be on the verge or on the private property. Can the city please explain? I'm assuming the intention is on the verge, but I think maybe it's not clear to some.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, this policy relates to verge treatments, so it is proposed that that tree would be planted on the verge.
The verge, thank you. And so who is going to be planting the tree? I think that's the other question that they were asking.
Through the chair, it's part of the treatment that is being put in. So if the resident, we've got deemed to comply provisions. So if they are putting in the brick paving in accordance with those deemed to comply provisions, they need to put the tree in as well.
And are there any requirements on the trees, you know, that they are able to be planted? Will residents know which trees they are able to plant and etc.?
Through the chair, it refers to the urban tree planting and maintenance policy, so they need to ensure that they need to follow those provisions in there.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Any other questions on this item, councillors? No. Okay. Are there any questions on any other items because no one sent through anything? Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 10.2.4, the rate exemption on a charity there.
Yep.
And the ownership of that property is an investing company. And I'm wondering whether that has applied to many other of our investors and charities where an investor is the owner of the property, but the rate is paid by the charity and then waived by us. And I'm just wondering what percentage of properties are like that.
I'll go to the manager to respond.
Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, we have 89 charitable properties. Sorry, it's just falling. And only one that I can find off is actually owned by a private company. So the other 89 are either owned by Department of Housing or owned by the charity itself.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions on this item, councillors? Deputy? No. Thanks very much, Stuart. Are there any questions on any other items, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you. 10.4.3 Reconciliation Advisory Committee.
Sorry. Yep.
Yes, thank you. So the officer's recommendation is to advertise an EOI to seek a replacement community member. So I have two questions. The first one is when are we planning to finalize the process of appointing that member following the council meeting? So when will we have a confirmation of the new member? When will that happen?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you, through the chair. So that recommendation commences the process of an expression of interest. Once that closes and consideration has been made by the city's officers, we will put that back to council for consideration to appoint the new member. As you may recall, the Reconciliation Advisory Committee terms of reference will be coming back to council at its 6-month mark. So I think that's probably about 2 months away at this point. For consideration as to the timely, whether we meet monthly or whatever it may be moving forward. So it's likely that this will come back at the same time.
So did you say, sorry, September?
At this stage, I believe it's September.
September. So what will be the term of the new community member? What will be the time left? Will that be a year or even less because of the elections?
It will be until...
The caretaker period?
Yeah, so it's until next, through the chair, sorry, it's until next election, so about 12 months.
And the caretaker starting at September? So it will be 1 year?
Roughly, yes.
Has this went through the committee?
Through the chair, yes.
The committee supported it?
Through the chair, yes.
So why is it said officer's recommendation instead of committee's recommendation?
Through the chair, the committee no longer has delegation, so there's no formal recommendation from the committee. However, it was raised at committee and also discussed with the chair of the committee as to appointment of a new member. That's why the matter is coming to council.
So, sorry, I'm confused. So I'm just going to the policy committee, which does not have delegated authority as well. And we can see committee recommendations to council from the policy committee. So why can't we see committee recommendations to council from our reconciliation committee?
Through the chair, the minutes that you're referring to are the minutes from the previous Reconciliation Advisory Committee, which had delegated authority, which is why there were formal recommendations as part of the minutes. This Reconciliation Advisory Committee does not have delegated authority. At this stage, because we're meeting monthly, a lot of the items are general business and may not include a formal resolution, or it will be general business with a notation. From recollection, if I may, through the Mayor, the Chair of the committee, it was discussed at the committee, yes.
Sorry, Director, I think the Deputy Mayor was making the comparison between the Policy Review Committee, which doesn't have delegated authority, and because we have a report in here from the Policy Review
Apologies,
Committee.
I thought you meant the attachment.
No, it was the Policy Review Committee saying the officer's report states the committee's recommendation, whereas the Reconciliation Advisory Committee report doesn't state the committee recommendation. So if it was general business, I understand that response, but if it was a formal item on the agenda, which I'm not sure about, then it would be a committee recommendation, I would believe, but...
Yes, through the Mayor, it was not a formal item, it was discussed as part of general business. To clarify, the terms of reference has up to, from recollection, 5 community members. Currently, we have 4. So in terms of the discretion to apply an additional community member, it was circulated through general business as to whether we go through that expression of interest process.
And it was supported?
Yes.
So just to finalize this issue, because I think it is important, it is not mentioned at all in the report. It doesn't say the issue was discussed by the committee and the committee is supported it. So even if it's not under official committee's recommendation, it doesn't say to councillors or to the public that it was discussed and the committee was supportive of that.
Through the chair, that's noted for future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? No? Are there any questions on any other items? Okay, if there's nothing else, I will close the meeting at 7:34 p.m. Thank you, councillors.